Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe. Now I sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and the Joe and Joe Weather Show is minus one Joe tonight, as he got a last minute invitation to a dinner at his house, where his wife was able to, Mrs. Rayo was able to get a 15-pound turkey and invite some family members over. So they are having a nice family dinner. So he has excused himself from the show, and rightfully so. Meanwhile, I'm still here in the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. You got mulch? Well, they got mulch, and they got mulch of all different colors, and also topsoil, gravel, everything you need to get your yard in tip-top shape this spring, so it looks great and make you the envy of your neighborhood. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. The telephone number is 631 756 1125. They have the best prices in town. They are also a local business, so you can support your local business here. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. So we're going into the weekend. Didn't have a show last night because I had some errands that I had to take care of. So we switched it to a Friday night, which often for us is a night off. And we've got a lot of weather going on. There's a lot of severe weather across the South, and also in parts of the Mid-Atlantic states, in Southern Virginia and in parts of North Carolina, where we have we've had numerous severe thunderstorm warnings and some tornado warnings from this outbreak today. And we're going to take a look at that. We'll take a look at what SPC is thinking about all of this. And of course, we've got risk also for tomorrow in parts of the South. Meanwhile, the weather pattern that we've been in, this blocking pattern that put most of the Northeast, except for coastal New England, most of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states, and actually up and down the East Coast in some great weather this week, is now in the process of kind of realigning itself. And I think that's going to have implications regarding the weather for next week. So let me just say quickly a big hello to everybody on the chat board tonight on a Friday night. Alfred Phillips joining us from Wainwright, Alaska. Always great to see you on here, Alfred, as you get deeper and deeper into your spring, although the weather in Alaska has been unusually cold. Thanks to the polar vortex. And I want to take a look at that later on. We're going to take a look at what's going on with the polar vortex and what that means. We usually look at it in the wintertime. We usually don't look at it too much in the spring, but it has been causing some, let's call it, different type of weather for some parts of the world. And maybe we can start to figure out whether the state of the polar vortex will have some implications for our weather as we get into the month of May. All right, so let's get started. I want to start with Timothy Veltman gave me a heads up on this. And for that, Timothy, thank you so much. Let me just clean this board a little bit so I can make sure that the signal is working right tonight. But you may or may not have heard that there's a volcano that has erupted in St. Vincent, and we have indeed the satellite loop, because you could actually see the volcanic eruption going on, especially once you get into the nighttime view, the infrared view. It shows up very, very clearly here. It actually, in a lot of ways, it looks almost like what you sometimes see in thunderstorms around a tropical depression that's gotten sheared apart. The westerly winds of the upper atmosphere blowing the volcanic ash out to the northeast. You see that La Soufrière, by the way, I hope I'm saying it correctly, La Soufrière, the volcano. And it's had 5 eruptions recently, including one just in the last several days. And you can see the blow off here of the ash moving on up from southwest to northeast out into the Atlantic. Small little thing there, but certainly having some impact. Pretty impressive to see this on the satellite loop. All right, so just wanted to show that to everybody. And in the meantime, as we said, we've got severe weather, and I'm at Tornado HQ. There are so far today 34 severe weather warnings have been issued. Most of them have been severe thunderstorm warnings. There have been a few tornado warnings, but most of these today have been severe thunderstorm warnings. And these are all the plots here of all the warnings that have been issued. The most recent ones, there have been let me roll this back. I mean, these are all within the last 45 minutes. You see them here. Severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Arkansas and Mississippi. Also for Seminole and Pottawatomie County in Oklahoma. We have Caldwell, Jackson, Ouachita, and Wynne in Louisiana. Ashley and Morehouse in Arkansas and Louisiana. Houston and Trinity in Texas with a severe thunderstorm warning. And on it goes. You can get all this, by the way, again, at Tornado H2. 32 active severe weather warnings for Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. And you can see on the map some of the warnings that are up right now in southeastern Virginia and northern North Carolina, which also includes, by the way, a special marine warning. I'm just going to go back to the Tornado HQ map on its own, just to separate the tornadoes out of this. And at the moment, we don't have any working tornado warnings. The last tornado warning was for Halifax County in Virginia, which expired 2 hours ago. And I didn't even know there's a county called Person County in North Carolina. They had a tornado warning that expired 2 hours ago. So again, as of right now, most of the activity actually from the standpoint of tornadoes, one here in Arkansas, the rest in North Carolina and Virginia, oddly enough. So the severe weather that is going on with the system that's moving through the out of the southern plains and across the south is been producing more severe thunderstorms rather than tornadoes. And the Storm Prediction Center was right in adding a moderate risk of severe weather, which it has this evening from northeast Louisiana, southern Arkansas into Mississippi and western Alabama. Enhanced extends east and west on either side of that. We are once again dealing with a situation that this area has dealt with several times in the last 3 or 4 weeks. This outbreak is a strong one. I think the other two were probably just a little bit stronger and also kind of bent on the tornado side of the ledger more than just the plain old severe thunderstorms. And also you see the marginal risk that runs from North Georgia up northward through the Carolinas into Virginia, and then that slight risk area in southern Virginia, northern North Carolina. That is where we've been seeing a lot of the severe weather tonight. And in terms of the tornado risk, it's been running, the way the SPC has set it up today, it's basically been a 5 to 10% risk of tornadoes and a 5% risk, a 2% risk in the slight risk area in southern Virginia, northern North Carolina. The wind is the bigger issue here for the southern system. A 45% chance of winds in excess of 50 knots. So certainly capable of causing some damage, and also a rather high probability of wind damage on the order of 65 knots. 10% or greater area in the hatched zone is a 10% or greater area probability of wind gusts of 65 knots within 25 miles of any point inside that hatched area. So certainly severe weather has revved up considerably here with this particular weather system. And in terms of the upper air, this is really kind of playing out. One of the things, and I mentioned this on my Weather in 5 video today, and also for my video for my Patreon members, is the fact that oftentimes when you see a system that is in the process of strengthening, if you're in that zone where a short wave is moving through and that short wave is amplifying, that's usually when you do get the worst of it, when they're in that strengthening phase. And that's what's happening tonight. It's one thing when you have a system that's already developed and it's kind of holding its own and moving along. But when you're in that process where the atmosphere is undergoing strengthening and changing, that's when you can oftentimes get some very dangerous thunderstorms and tornadoes. And here, if you watch on the loop, this is the SREF model, and what I brought up here is the 700 millibar chart, which is the flow of the winds at roughly at about 10,000 feet. If you watch, this is the short wave that I'm talking about here. This upper low that's up in Minnesota, now that's left from the system from yesterday that has moved up to the northeast, but there's more energy that is digging down on the west side, and we have this area of strong winds, this strong jet that's dropping down through Wyoming and Colorado, and then at the base of the jet you have this shortwave trough that's running from western Oklahoma down into western Texas. And if you watch what happens over time today and into tonight, this is, at this point, we are at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and now we're at 8 o'clock on the last run of the SREF model. This trough has really strengthened. It's gone negative. You've got this upper low that's forming in Nebraska, and that is going to be the player for tonight. Very strong jet here across Louisiana, right in there, though, that strong belt of winds showing up there at about, those are mostly 40 and 50 knot winds at the 700 millibar level. And that jet actually strengthens as we go through the overnight when it moves through Mississippi and kind of reaches its peak here overnight, roughly at around, well, this is at about 5 or 6 a.m. Saturday morning. And then you see the jet, that lead jet does weaken a bit as it moves on to the east. So there will be severe weather risk tomorrow. So the question is whether it'll be as robust as today's. My sense is that it'll certainly be no worse than today. The SPC has actually expanded their risk area for tomorrow by adding an enhanced risk of severe weather across parts of the Florida Panhandle and also into southern Alabama. Slight risk pushing up into northern Alabama, northwestern Georgia, and the marginal risk actually goes all the way up the Appalachians and into as far north as southern Michigan, northern Indiana, and through all of the state of Ohio on the east side of this, into Virginia, North and South Carolina. And then as we move on to Sunday, as everything shifts over to the East Coast, we are going to see marginal risk from southeastern Virginia down along the coastal plain from North and South Carolina into Georgia, into southeastern Georgia, and through the northern half of Florida. And we do have general thunderstorms being indicated up the coast and on up into upstate New York. All of this with this weather system to the west, which up until now, those weather systems have been kind of in this traffic jam because of the block to the east. Well, that block is realigning itself, and that's opened a little bit of a door for the system to move on eastward. So Bill Fisher asked the question, can you explain a shortwave? All right, so I'm going to go back. Let me go back to that upper air map. And a shortwave basically is describing the wavelength of a trough. And if you look at this, you kind of see the length of this shortwave, the V shape in the trough where the winds bottom out, and then from one side on the west side they're from the northwest, on the east side they are from the southwest. And you can see here the shortwave actually refers to the wavelength. So this wave in the atmosphere, it kind of runs across the half of the United States. If you cut the United States in half, the length of that wave goes from Nebraska down into Texas. So it's relatively short in terms of the distance. Sometimes you see these troughs that look like this, okay? And when you look at where the upper low is, the center of this, it could sometimes be somewhere in southern Canada. So it covers a lot of geography. We refer to that as a long wave trough. So it's really just talking about the length of the wave. The short in this case, because it's only the half of the United States going south, we would refer to it as a short wave. If the trough wavelength ran from, say, northern Hudson Bay all the way down to South Texas, we would refer to that as a long wave. So going forward, WPC, the Weather Prediction Center for the next 7 days, big rains in the central Gulf states. Of course, a lot of that being convectively driven, starting from tonight and going right through next Friday night on the order to several inches or more, particularly down in the southern parts of Mississippi and Alabama, even into southeastern Louisiana, and kind of touching the Florida Panhandle. The rainfall amounts thin out a bit as you move up to the northeast, but you're still seeing anywhere from a half inch to as much as an inch or even an inch and a half in some pockets in upstate New York. Rains on the order of the half an inch to an inch or so for the next 7 days back across the Great Lakes, and an area of an inch and a half or more from western Illinois down into southwestern Missouri. A little bit more activity, by the way, going on in the Rockies, particularly in the central Rockies, and we want to kind of watch this because that may wind up being snow for some areas in Wyoming and Colorado with one of these systems coming in from the west. That extends up to the northern Rockies, seeing a little bit of activity up in the Pacific Northwest, but California, for the most part, remains dry, as does southern Nevada, southern Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and over into New Mexico. One of the things regarding the severe weather today, I want to just kind of point this out, what we were dealing with in terms of temperatures. Now, I'm just using the forecast map. These were the forecast highs today, and we saw, when I saw this earlier today, I thought it was pretty interesting. So in the area that you're seeing the severe weather, most of the temperatures are in the 80s or in the 70s and lower 80s, pushing up into Tennessee and into northern Alabama. So you had very warm air moving, and also very humid air, obviously. And then look back in Texas. Some of the high temperatures forecast today were in the 100 degree or higher from just south of San Antonio southward into South Texas, and mostly 90s going up, even up as far north as Dallas-Fort Worth, the middle to upper 80s elsewhere to the east. So, you had a lot of certainly very warm to hot air, but what really struck me was when I pulled up the dew point map for this, and I want to bring this up just to show you the sharpness of the what we would refer to as the dry line, or the kind of a dew point front here. Look at these dew points. This is for 8 p.m. tonight, and I can put up the hazards map as well to show this. But take a look at these dew points running ahead of the front that's moving eastward. Dew points in the middle to upper 60s, and even some lower 70 dew points down along the Louisiana coast, which for this time of year is really juiced up air. But just west of the front, you go from a dew point of 62 at 8 o'clock this evening in Dallas-Fort Worth. Not too many miles west, your dew points are 40 or less. And look at these dew points that show up in West Texas, particularly in Southwest Texas, where you have a dew point of -5 on the print here. I mean, this is really just absolutely bone dry, chilly air that has pushed well to the south. So no shocker here, and also the gradient in terms of you don't have to go a big distance from where you have dew points under 20 to dew points over 60. That's not that many miles. I know Texas is a big state, but relatively speaking, that's not that many miles. It's a very, very sharp contrast in the dew point field. So certainly very supportive here for the idea of having the severe weather outbreak that we're seeing. So I want to just kind of run through what's going to be happening weather-wise as far as the weather in the Northeast is concerned, in the Mid-Atlantic states. We're talking about the fact that things are becoming a bit unsettled. I'm going to run through the surface map first, and then I'll pull up the upper air so we can kind of digest all of this. And here we have, this is supposed to be the radar view. And if you look at the current radar, it kind of matches up pretty well with the showers and storms that are breaking out through Arkansas, northwest Louisiana into East Texas. Also, off the Florida Panhandle out in the Gulf of Mexico, you see the storms in southern Virginia and in northern North Carolina that have turned severe. Meanwhile, there was a little bit of scattered shower activity in parts of the Northeast that went through earlier today. And most of that has been on the weak side. That really very narrow line. It's amazing how difficult it has been to even bring in moisture here, or at least enough to cause some rain after the bone dry conditions that we had this week. And then, of course, you see the action that's going on over the Great Lakes. So the radar kind of matches up pretty well here with the GFS, and with the presence of this low that has run up to the Great Lakes, and now another low is following. You see the low there tomorrow afternoon in western Illinois, and a trailing line of showers and thunderstorms that runs down into Georgia and to Florida, in the Florida Panhandle. And of course, tomorrow morning, it looks like there'll be some strong thunderstorms going on southeast Louisiana through Alabama and into Tennessee. That swings eastward, but it's still fighting. You can't really see it too well. There's one isobar left tomorrow morning. You can just kind of pick it out there on the edge of the map from the ocean storm that has been off the East Coast all week. So that's giving us, I think, a bit of a window for Saturday, where the weather on Saturday might be, let's call it, not too bad. I think the further north and east you go, say up into New England, you're likely to see some sunshine tomorrow. The further south and west you go, you're likely to see more clouds than anything else. And of course, wherever you are, that's certainly going to impact the temperatures, because this could be one of those upside down situations where the clouds up to the north, the lack of clouds up to the north may actually mean higher temperatures as you go through New England, and more clouds to the west and south will mean lower temperatures as you go south. And of course, this arm of showers and maybe even an embedded thunderstorm or two swings northeastward Saturday night. By Sunday morning, sometime after 2 a.m., between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., say in Philadelphia, and just shortly after that, arriving in New York City. Most of it looks like it's done in the morning. Most of the showers shift up to the north. Kind of a bit of a warm sector situation here for Sunday afternoon to Sunday night that might trigger off another couple of showers during the evening hours. And then you see that you've got this low that's offshore. You've got another low back through the Great Lakes. All of this is just sort of pinned in here in the Northeast for next week. And while we don't see anything in terms of, say, widespread long duration rains, what we do see is occasionally the model spitting out some showers, like we see here for Monday and Monday night. And then you see on Tuesday morning some showers on the GFS in northern Virginia and on up also in western Pennsylvania. They kind of fall apart as the day goes on. But with lower pressures dominating the weather scene in the Great Lakes and off the East Coast, we're probably going to have cloud issues from time to time, shower issues from time to time, and maybe even some breaks of sun from time to time. And then later next week, a bit more of an organized low tries to form off the East Coast. You see it here, sort of gets wrapped up. We'll deal with that over the weekend. We'll see when we do the Sunday show what the models are doing with this, because we've seen this magic before, only to see it change markedly by the time we get closer to the actual solution. But one of the things that we're looking at in terms of the overall flow here, I'm going to bring up the 500 millibar map, and you can see for next Saturday on that screen. Let me roll it back. I just suddenly realized I don't need my headsets on because Joe's not here. It's amazing what you do when with the force of habit of my ears were starting to get hot, and I'm like, why am I wearing this headset since I don't have Joe on the other side of the equation? So as the circle of death just continues, there we go, finally. So here's your low. Right there, right at 40 and 60. This was back on Wednesday, and if you remember, we talked about the fact that the actual blocking high was south of where you would normally see it, or at least where you would normally see it when it comes to having the weather being not so nice. But because of the block being further south and the upper low being further south, we actually had a mostly northerly wind aloft, and it was a very dry wind, certainly reflected in those single digit humidity levels that we saw in the area on Tuesday, for example. Now, what's happening is that low is moving out to the east, out to almost 55 west. That's pretty far out. And that has allowed the systems that have been to the west and getting hung up and just never, weakening and never really being able to penetrate the block. Now they have the traffic jam is broken up a little bit, and you're starting to see these systems progress a little bit further east. In the meantime, another upper low drops down through Labrador toward Newfoundland, and you see it here on Sunday. It strengthens near Newfoundland, just kind of rotates around there, and now your block is actually a little bit further north this time around, going into Monday night and Tuesday. It's pushed northwestward between Greenland and Labrador, and that is a different scenario because that we don't have that northerly flow of dry air this time around. We actually have more of a flow coming out from the upper low that is back over the Great Lakes. This east-west oriented upper low. So we're kind of more we're more under the circulation of that, under the influence of that, than the low that's south of Newfoundland. And as a result, we're going to be dealing with this upper low that tries to drop eventually southeastward. You see it there over Pennsylvania and eventually off the New Jersey coast by the time we get to later next week. If this could be a situation where you could wind up with a deepening low offshore and just one of these raw nor'easters that you see from time to time in April. However, I just want to point out that this, depending on the block to the north, if it weakens a little bit, and it does weaken somewhat, you could still wind up with seeing these features a little bit further to the north than indicated, and that would really kind of change the profile for later this coming week. So we're kind of in a state of flux here. The spring is never an easy time to figure out these things because you've got the atmosphere gradually breaking down from its wintertime pattern, and you're seeing the leftovers of winter air masses up in northern Canada and the Arctic, what's left of them trying to come down. Here's on the latest run of the GFS, you see this upper low as we get to around April 19th or 20th that drops down from Canada into the western Great Lakes and then swings into the northeast. I mean, if that were to verify, it certainly would mean for some chilly weather going into at least to start the last 10 days of the month of April, if that winds up being correct. And with respect to the polar vortex, I'm going to bring this up because it was the subject of conversation. I had a brief conversation today with meteorologist Bill Goodman from the Weather Service here in Upton on Long Island, and he was talking about the fact, and actually I think I saw Dr. Judah Cohen tweet it, and then I kind of lost the tweet and I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but he talked about the fact that the polar vortex is breaking down very, very rapidly. Now, bear in mind that it has been very, very strong in much of March and now through the first 9 days of the month of April. This is a time of year where the polar vortex in the stratosphere breaks down. It actually usually starts breaking down in early March, but it was about a month delayed, and now it winds up breaking down very, very rapidly here in the next 16 days. So you see it here when you see the bluish area that's on the map, for example, like we see now, those are below normal heights or below normal pressures. Well, those below normal pressures disappear almost completely by the time we get to, say, Monday, April 19th, and then moving on into April 23rd and beyond, that polar vortex is almost gone, and you start to see the beginning of a very strong upper high in the stratosphere building over northwestern Alaska and back over into eastern Siberia. And gradually, what happens during the month of May is that upper high covers the whole polar region, and that's the one feature that you'll see on this map. What's interesting about it is the fact that it's a very rapid breakdown, and Bill Goodman was looking at all of this and thinking that this might imply perhaps given a lag time, because what happens here usually takes about 3 weeks or so to play out in the bottom of the atmosphere. So maybe middle May and beyond could be an indicator for perhaps some severe weather activity here in the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states. So I'm gonna try to. Bill said he'll come on the show. We're just trying to work out a date on his end. So he's going to let me know when he's available, and we'll have him on so that he can explain all of this as far as the long range is concerned. So for those of you who joined late, Joe Rayo is off tonight because he had a last minute dinner engagement that magically appeared, and he said that he couldn't do the show, and he'll be back on Sunday. So my choice was to either cancel it or go solo, and I haven't gone solo in a while. And I have to tell you, it's hard. I used to do the show solo with Joe coming on from time to time, but I haven't done this. I think this is only the second solo show I've done in the last year or so. And when you're used to having your partner here, and he's not here, makes it hard to carry this all by my little self. So he'll be back on Sunday. Okay, everything's fine. We didn't have a fight, nothing like that. Okay, he's just enjoying a nice turkey dinner at home that Mrs. Rayo cooked, and with some of his family. Keith James asks, "What's the difference between a thunderstorm and a thunder shower?" No, there is no difference really. I think the word I've never really used the word thunder shower, only because of the fact that when you've got something going on outside that's shooting electricity left and right, to call it a thunder shower, it kind of downplays it. And I've always kind of stuck with the idea of just calling it a thunderstorm. There's no difference. I think it's just a measure of intensity that some people might use to say that maybe you have thunderstorms that are not really all that powerful, that maybe produce a little bit of heavy rain for a short period of time and shoot a couple of bolts of thunder, and a couple of bolts of lightning and a rumble or two of thunder, and that's it. As opposed to a thunderstorm where it's kabooming for a half hour or 45 minutes with torrential rains, and of course we have severe thunderstorms. But a thunderstorm is a thunderstorm. When you look at it in terms of how SPC looks at it and what's on maps, they use the word thunderstorm, but it's basically the same thing. Scott D, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. Again, it's hard with him not here. And I'm sure he would say the same if the shoe were on the other foot. Leon Probitsky hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. And thank you for the 42 likes that we have on the show tonight. Also, most appreciated. Spring's kind of tough, especially this time of year. We just come off the winter. We just had a week where really the weather was just very, very nice and about as uneventful as you could get in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. Audience levels are low, but to get 42 likes is a good thing, and I do appreciate it greatly. Thank you. Jason Barry, does the polar vortex exist in the summer? No, the polar vortex in the northern hemisphere is gone in the summertime. It's destroyed in the next 4 or 5 weeks. It will completely disappear, and it's replaced by a gigantic upper high that's sitting up there. It's a question of the lingering polar vortex as we go through the rest of April and into May. It may linger around for an extra week or two that it normally does, or maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just weakens so quickly that you go from that to a big upper high in the stratosphere. I'm not familiar on what that implies in terms of the summer weather implications, if it implies an early arrival of summer or does it imply something else. I'm going to leave that for Bill Goodman to come on and explain when he does, and probably, hopefully, it'll be sometime next week. Steve Lapointe, thank you very much for hitting super chat. Yes, I'm doing. He says I'm doing fine, old man Joe Chaffee. I know it's true. It's tough. I've been pontificating for the better part of the last 40 years, and when you get to my age, which it's not too shabby. I'm 62, but sometimes grasping on thoughts and completing sentences is a struggle, like it was just this moment ago in trying to grasp for words. So, by the way, this is my, I don't know if you could see it. There's my Band-Aid from my second COVID shot that I got 3 days ago. I got the second Pfizer shot. I had absolutely no side effects from the first shot other than a slightly sore arm for about 24 hours. I've had absolutely no side effects from the second shot other than a somewhat sore arm. It was a little more sore this time around. It hurt a little bit more, and it lasted for about a day or a day and a half. But now it's perfectly fine. Again, I've had no side effects whatsoever. So the only thing I would say is, one thing I did do is I made sure I'd stayed hydrated. So I was drinking a lot of water, which I normally do, but I just made a point to make sure that I was hydrated through all of this, just in case I were to get some kind of side effect. But knock on wood, everything turned out okay. Tim, no, it was the Pfizer shot that I got. Just trying to run through looking here at the chat. Christinapedia is on, and of course, Christinapedia just getting over COVID. We're so happy to see you on board and hope that your recovery continues on what should be a rapid pace, because we want you 100% as quickly as possible. And I think I saw your comment on my Facebook page that cheese. You can't seem to get the taste of cheese has changed changed on you. I will tell you, I had a virus back, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I caught something, whatever it was that was going around, and I have a tendency when that happens to me, if it's something that causes me to run a fever, I have always run high fevers. I've broken 105 a couple of times, so it's not unusual for me to get fevers of like 103, 104. And then they break. They usually break very quickly, thank God. But and now I lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going with this. Whatever that virus was that I had. So this was going back a long. It must be about 7 or 8 years ago. I could not be, and this lasted for over a year. I could not be in a room where coffee was brewing. The smell of coffee, and I like coffee. I usually drink a couple of cups of coffee in the morning. But for the better part of a year, I was not able to be in a room where the smell of coffee was brewing. It would literally make me nauseous. And it's certainly the taste, I couldn't handle it at all. And it just eventually just kind of went away. And everything went back to normal. And then it happened a second time about 5 years ago when I had the flu. The one and only time I think I've had the flu in the last 15 or 20 years. That smell of coffee I found so repulsive. And that lasted also for the better part of a year before I finally was able to drink coffee again. So be patient on the cheese thing. I think if I lost the taste for cheese, because I'm a big cheese eater, I probably would lose 20 or 30 pounds right off the bat. So for me, it would probably be a blessing if I could lose or find that find cheese to be totally unattractive and unedible. The chairman hitting super chat tonight. Thank you very much. We're going to do we're going to on Sunday. We will do a Cooking with Jeopardy on Sunday with Mrs. Rayo. I will tell you. Let me just give you a heads up for Sunday. Normally we start at 11 o'clock Eastern time. My plan is to start the show on time, but it's possible that we might have to push it back to either 12 o'clock or perhaps Sunday evening. So I just want to give everybody a heads up on that. Steve Lapointe hitting super chat again. I think it's Rayo who hit thumbs down. I don't not put him past him. No, smash the thumbs up button under video. No, Joe wouldn't hit the thumbs down button. I wanted to say the other night, for the 3 people that hit the thumbs down button every single night we do a show. I hope I hope you enjoyed your 4-day vacation last Thursday through last Sunday. That you got a nice break. You didn't have to find your way to the Joe and Joe show to hit the thumbs down button. So I hope you enjoyed your break. Let's see. When I'm sick, you don't want coffee, says Pete Zahut. Yeah, maybe, but this was really kind of odd because it didn't just it lasted for so darn long before I was able to finally once again enjoy a cup of coffee. Tea was fine. I could drink tea. Didn't bother me, but the taste of coffee and the smell of coffee was just not good at all. All right. No, I don't think it's Ruben Fairchild, Keith. He's actually gotten he's calmed down a bit. I've had a couple of conversations and comments with him on the videos after the show's post, and everything is cool. So just I guess a little over anxious. He wants us on every single day. He likes us so much, so it is a compliment, and I get that. And no, Dennis Cassia, I will not, under any circumstances, lose my taste for wine. I didn't have a glass of my Merlot tonight, which I usually have a glass of wine in the evening. Not every evening, but most evenings. I'm extra tired today because JJ's asleep on the floor and has been through the whole show, which tells you what his opinion of this is. But JJ and I walked 8.5 miles today, so we're both kind of wiped out. We went to the dog park, and then we went to the one of the Tennessee Valley Authority dams. There's actually 2 of those near where I am in Georgia, in North Georgia, and one has they both have beautiful parks attached to it. So we walked to the dog park, the town dog park, and then we went to the TVA near the Nottely Dam, Lake Nottely and the Nottely River. And the Nottely River is it runs very fast, and it's one of these whitewater rafting rivers that people have fun on. So I'm going to be interested to see this in a couple of months when summer activities get into full swing around here, and what people do on that particular river, because parts of it are very, very fast, very, very rocky, and very, very rough because they're inside, in between two mountains, 2 cliffs on either side. All right, we're going to call it a night. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much on a Friday night. Go enjoy yourselves if you can. Stay safe. And we'll see you on Sunday. For now, we'll say 11 o'clock Eastern time. There's a chance it could get pushed back to 12. So once I have when I put the show up and open up the chat room, you'll know what the starting time is. Chris Alley, nice to see you. Hope everything is okay and by you, and you're healthy. I saw the other night you said you got your first shot, which is great, and hopefully no side effects. And for any of you that do decide to get the COVID shot, hopefully no side effects for you. And I'll say it again what I said last night. These are, there's so much information that's out there. Some of it is good information. Some of it is bad information. Whatever information you look at, please make sure it's reliable. And it's the kind of thing that I think so if you decide that you want to get the shot, it's a conversation that you should be having with your doctor, and not with your friends on Facebook that all have medical degrees and epidemiology degrees and law degrees and all the rest of it. So, have that conversation with your doctor and your loved one, and make a decision that way. That's my never to be humble opinion on it. Okay, I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. All right. Yeah, William Uber, the Masters going on. They got to have some thunderstorms scattered around overnight and tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll see how that impacts them. I imagine they might have some delays, but it doesn't look continuous. So maybe they'll be able to play in between as long as there's no severe thunderstorm watches. They'll probably get. They should be able to get it in. Okay. Have a great night, folks. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on Sunday.